everybody, and welcome to Rise of the Podcast. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Kara.
And I'm Brownie.
You guys over there in Minnesota laughing at my intro.
This is the wackiest thing we've ever done.
I agree.
Well, we're doing it.
We are.
And so you guys are just going to have to deal with it. So I'll explain to everybody what's going on. I am down in New Orleans for work. And it is quite an adventure so far. So I've got some fun stories to tell you, or at least some observations that I've, seen while I'm down here. Kara, what are you doing?
Oh, right now I'm sitting in the studio. But tomorrow I will be joining Jeremy down in New Orleans.
That sounds like a pretty dope time.
I know, I'm super excited. I've told a few patients about it, and every single one of them has said the food is amazing. So I'm super stoked.
Well,
I'm probably going to come back and have gained about 100 pounds. So, there's going to be that.
I'm super excited to have Kara come down here, and I've already got to try some really good food. So the other day I went out for dinner, and I've had like a crawfish soup served over rice with a side of catfish. I went downtown and got like a traditional, just like American breakfast, but it was like at a mom and pop's place. That was absolutely delicious. I went out for Mediterranean food. I went down to the French Quarter where Mardi Gras takes place, and I went to the Café du Monde and got some beignets, which is a French pastry that's very popular here.
Yeah. I was going to say, here's the thing now. I want friggin' beignets so bad.
You should bring some back with you.
I don't know if I can.
I could actually, Chris.
He can.
Yeah,
I can.
Make it happen.
I will absolutely bring some back. And then, Kara, I have not tried the Café du Monde coffee yet. That's a chicory flavored coffee, so I'm very excited to try that out.
You know what? One of my patients said I had to try that. She said it's by far the best coffee she's ever had. So
it is supposed to be like extremely delicious. I'm just going to jump right into some of the stuff I have. So here's what's really cool is, first thing I noticed is like New Orleans is famous for Mardi Gras, all right, which is just a celebration of Shrove Tuesday, Fat Tuesday. It's the last day before Lent starts, which is where basically Catholics, Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, starve themselves of something for 40 days in honor of their religion. Is that correct?
That sounds right enough to me. You're asking the wrong cat.
So,
wait, so Mardi Gras is like a religious holiday?
Yeah, that is, yeah.
What? Okay.
Yeah,
it's the biggest Shrove Tuesday celebration.
There's nothing religious about Mardi Gras.
Yeah, you get all your sinning out of the way so that during Lent you don't have to worry about it.
That's not how it works.
But it is.
That's how they bank it up.
Oh
they
my
bank
gosh,
it up.
but you're like bad sins. I mean, don't go murder people, but come on.
So that's super famous, right? So drinking is basically it's a big deal in New Orleans, like a big deal. So one of the things I noticed is they have drive-through daiquiri stands.
We will be going to that.
So you can drive through and get yourself a daiquiri.
So wait, you can. So drinking as a passenger, you can drink.
No, drinking and driving is technically still illegal, and open cup laws do apply. But there's a loophole where frozen alcoholic beverages do not apply to the open drink law.
Okay.
So there's like a loophole where you still can't drink it. So the straw cannot be in the daiquiri, but you can enjoy it when you get to your destination. So it's just one of those things that's kind of crazy to see. And like normally, most places have off-sale liquor, in other parts of the country, or places where they can't get, booze isn't available. Here, or bars close, at 2 a.m. Here, alcohol is for sale 24/7. Bars never have to close if they don't want to. Alcohol can be sold anywhere.
My dad used to tell me a story about, because he used to work down in the Gulf of Mexico, and he lived in Homa. About probably an hour away from New Orleans, and he told me about the time that he and his buddy went to a bar, and they went in and it was daylight, and they left and it was daylight the next day.
Oh my gosh!
And he's like, "There's nothing worse than being plastered and it being just bright outside."
I believe it. I absolutely believe it. So booze is for sale here 24/7. I did get a chance to run down and see a little bit of the French Quarter and see that area. There's a huge World War II museum here. It's the National The United States has recognized that this museum is the official World War II museum of the United States.
Oh, really?
It's the #1 World War II museum in the U.S., and it is in 2017, it was the second most popular museum in the entire world.
Dang.
So I'm super excited to
Wow.
go. Yeah.
Well, hold on.
I'm
So what
super
was the
excited to go
first?
check that out.
Probably the Louvre.
I didn't look that up, Chris. I didn't
Oh
look
my
that up.
goodness! You can't
Okay.
have something ranked and not tell us what the top ranked thing of that thing is.
I'm gonna guess it's probably the Louvre.
I would get yeah.
I mean,
So-
I can see it.
So when you go down and you see like the French Quarter, you see there's a really big cathedral down there, and there's a statue for Andrew Jackson. And one of my coworkers told me kind of a cool thing. Do you know the significance of a general on a horse and like what the horse is doing? Did you know about this, Chris?
Horses are typically rearing.
Or
in the-
Kara?
I think the number of feet on the ground has something to do with or the amount of feet in the air has something to do with a distinction if the saber is drawn or something. I'm tangentially aware that there is a significance. I'm not particularly familiar with what it is.
According to one source I found, if all 4 feet are on the ground, the general did not get injured or killed in battle. If one hoof is off, they got hurt in battle, and if both front feet are off the air or in the air, then the general died during a battle.
Okay.
Interesting.
So if you see a statue of a general, and there might be something with the saber drawn, but I specifically saw it's like in the position of a horse, which was kind of
what
interesting.
if
Yeah.
one foot is on the ground?
They got injured.
No. Not 1 foot raised, only 1 foot on the ground.
Then they've come back from the dead.
The South will rise again.
You know,
Right. There you go.
I am gonna make a
I got to
statue.
see.
Zombie General Lee's coming to get you.
don't give Hollywood any more zombie ideas.
That's true.
Right. So I got to see some pretty cool stuff, but Kara and I had gone out to Nantucket in the past. We've been to the East Coast before, and there's just a ton of history on the East Coast. But as far as being down south, I was blown away at actually how much history is in New Orleans. It's super old. The town was founded by the French in 1718, and it is the largest port in the South. And there's just been this big, long history of it's exchanged hands a lot. It was a vital trade route to get people or get goods and services, from the United States out into the ocean and stuff like that. And so like the Louisiana Purchase was all because of Napoleon actually owned Louisiana and the entire French Purchase, and they lost their foothold due to a slave uprising in the Dominican Republic. And so they had to, they couldn't keep a foothold. New Orleans wasn't worth holding on to if they didn't have their industry in the Dominican Republic, or is it modern day Haiti? I can't remember. One of the two Caribbean islands that they were in charge of.
Interesting.
And so what happened was when they lost control of that island, they thought it would benefit the United States more. So Napoleon made a deal with the United States, and hence the Louisiana Purchase. And it all is like stems and is rooted down here in New Orleans.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
And so some other cool, some cool things is, so jazz was founded in New Orleans,
Yeah.
which was kind of interesting.
I saw that.
It was actually not founded on, you think of jazz, you think of horns and stuff like that, and trumpets.
It was a drum,
and sexy
wasn't it?
jazz music. It was drums, absolutely. Dang, you guys are smart. I can't even
I had
fill you in
no
on some of
idea.
the
I was
sweet
going to
stuff
guess
that
the
I've learned.
washboard.
It was actually, I kind of looked it up, and it was actually in New Orleans where slaves were first allowed to own a musical instrument, which is a drum.
That makes total sense.
Boom. Just kidding.
So that was just kind of a cool thing. The first opera in the United States took place in New Orleans, and New Orleans has a nickname. Do you guys know what the nickname is?
Well, I think we talked about this
big-
earlier. The Big Easy.
Yep, the Big
Yeah.
Easy. Yep. And so I looked up, why is it called the Big Easy? And so there's a couple different sources that claim different things. One of them is because it's really easy. What did Kara say?
Nothing, go on.
Okay. It's really
Mardi
easy
Gras,
to make it as a musician here.
Okay.
And so that's kind of a cool thing. And then a lot of people compare it to, so there's another town with the name Big in it, and that's the Big Apple. So the Big Apple was apparently coined in New Orleans by a guy who was overhearing a couple of stablemen sitting around, and one of the stable people asked, hey, what are you up to next? And he said, I'm headed over to the Big Apple. Big Apple is horse racetracks used to be referred to as going to the Apple. And so the biggest racetracks for professional horse racers were in New York.
Really?
So when people would go to the Big Apple, they were trying to make it in horse racing. And
when did Kentucky Derby become a thing?
I have no idea.
What now?
When did the Kentucky Derby start?
I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll have to look that up. Like our horse racing
How
fans
dare you not
can let us
anticipate
know.
our tangential questions, Jeremy?
Jeez.
This is unacceptable.
I'm just not prepared on this one. Oh, unacceptable.
Okay,
So
I'm
that's
looking it
where
up.
Big
Hold
Apple
on.
came from. And some other people were compared. The reason why it also is called the Big Easy is because New York is very uptight and busy. It's the city that never sleeps. Here in New Orleans, it's the city where it's easy. Life is easier here. It's a big metropolitan area, but it's easy here. So that's kind of interesting.
Okay. 1875.
Kentucky Derby's been around a while.
Yes, it has.
Right, but not as long as New Orleans.
That's true. By like 160 years.
Yeah.
Voodoo is a big thing down here.
Yes.
So voodoo was actually introduced to the United States through New Orleans. So there's some famous stories about like Madame LaLaurie. She was married and inspired one of the seasons of American Horror Story.
She's creepy. She tortured slaves and murdered them.
Well, she's had 3 husbands and killed them. And
Well, there was one slave
but you know what?
who I was actually reading up on her before we started recording. But there was one young slave who was brushing her hair, and she hit a snag in Madame Laurie's hair, and she got mad. And so she took a whip and she started chasing her around the house. And the young slave, rather than deal with the whipping, jumped off the roof of the house.
Dang.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I think that's what caused like there to be some searching into Madame LaLaurie and figure out what's actually going on. She's a crazy lady.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you ever want to learn more about her, Google search her because it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And so they have like voodoo monuments down here, and people like give cash to them and stuff like that to like because they like it's crazy.
That's
so
very
I just thought that was
Well, it's
something
kind
that
of
was
funny
kind of
because we did just watch that
interesting, but-
episode of Monk that had to do with like all the voodoo dolls and stuff.
Yes, with the voodoo dolls, and
Yeah.
That's a really good episode.
Do you know?
So something else kind of cool is
It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I'm sorry that I'm not watching it at the exact same time as you guys. I have seen it. I'm generally aware.
Fine.
so Louisiana is a unique state as it doesn't have counties. There
Oh,
are
I
no
know what they
counties
are.
in Louisiana.
They're parishes.
Okay, go for it, Chris.
They're parishes.
They're parishes. That's
A
correct.
parish is a church.
No, they're the only reason I know that is because my dad again lived down near New Orleans when he was working in the oil fields. He was talking like, "Oh, we are going over to such and such parish," and it's like, yeah,
You mean county?
So yeah, so what's the reasoning behind them being called parishes then, Jeremy?
I didn't look that up
Oh
either.
my
Damn you and your
goodness.
tangential questions. Do you know the answer to that?
Oh, I don't.
Oh my goodness! Do I need to look this up too?
All right.
Jeez, boys. Why are
All
counties
right. Well, while
called
Kara's
parishes?
looking that up, I'm assuming it has something to do with like the Louisiana Purchase or something.
I would
like
guess
that.
because at least this from an outside perspective, and you can correct me if you've come across information that doesn't.
This is actually kind of interesting. So the question was, why is Louisiana the only state to have parishes and not counties? So it says Louisiana was officially Roman Catholic under both France and Spain's rule.
Okay.
The boundaries dividing the territories generally coincided with church parishes.
Aha.
Yep. In 1807, the territorial legislature officially adopted the ecclesiastical term. Ecclesiastical term. You think I would know how to say that?
I don't know how to spell it, but I definitely know how to say it.
It's spelled like Ecclesiastes with tickle instead.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, if you know how to spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, you just add ness to the back.
I
and
do
then that's
know how to spell
super.
supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll be over here not spelling ecclesiastical. That's interesting. That's what I was going to propose as a theory, is because the strong Catholic presence in the French anyway. I forgot that Spain played a role in that.
They did. Yep.
All right, Jeremy.
They
more
owned it
facts.
for a while.
Right, I know. We don't need dead silence. Ugh.
So this is kind of like my last like really cool thing, at least that I wanted to talk about for a minute, was, have you guys ever heard of crimping or Shanghaiing?
Well,
Shanghaiing, I feel I've heard. It's kind of like hijacking, isn't it?
Well, and then crimping is what you do to the crust of a Sammy's pizza.
Crimping is what you did to your hair in the 90s.
You two are both hilarious.
Are they dance moves?
So this wasn't... No, this wasn't as big of a thing in New Orleans, but it still happened here. But it was very big on both the coasts. And so crimping or Shanghaiing, and very big in London, is when you force someone into being on a ship.
Oh, so this okay.
Okay.
That's the definition that I thought that Kara said when you like basically kidnap somebody to do stuff.
Yes,
but it's like in regards to sailing.
More or less.
Interesting.
So I have some cool things. So imagine like being on the streets of London or New York or in like any major port city,
Shanghai,
and you're walking along. Well, so it's called Shanghaiing because a lot of forced sailors would end up in Shanghai, as in that's one of the big destinations they would go to.
Quite interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah. And but so imagine walking along and somebody says, "Oh, hey, are you headed down to the docks?" And you go, "No, I don't work at the docks. I'm a bartender." And they go, "Oh, really?" And people grab you, they sit you down, and they force you onto a ship, and they say, "You work on a ship now."
I'd be like,
and basically what they would do is they would present you with two options. You would either be taken and you would be asked to volunteer to be on the ship, and then if you said yes, you would be a volunteer and you'd be treated much better if you were in a volunteer status aboard a ship. If you denied them, they would still take you on the ship, but now you'd be held down in the keep and being offered much like more difficult jobs and be in a much more position, maybe not have access to, like things that other sailors might have. So either way, you're ending up on a ship. It was just a matter of... Right. Either way, you're ending up on a ship. So those people who would harass you, those were called press gangs. And so you might have heard that term thrown around. So that was a press gang.
Huh.
There was
press
a gang of
gangs
people.
are kind of throughout history, like even... What?
I have never heard the term before.
Oh, really?
So I don't know a thing.
I definitely heard it.
Welcome to the rest of the world, guys.
So they say demand, creates necessity for products and things. So one of the things that was interesting is what really started this was how boarding masters got paid. So boarding masters were people on ships responsible for finding and gathering a crew. And they were paid by companies or by the Navy for how many people were on the ship. So it got to the point where it was just simply beneficial for them to just force people onto the ship, and then they would just get paid like per person that they forced onto the ship. Then if you were getting forced onto the ship, you could collect your salary early because you can't obviously spend it at sea, but they wouldn't give you the money because then you could just like sneak away or try to run away. So they would like give you like a spending at certain places, so you could only buy from like the Dutch Trading Co. or from the X amount of Trading Co. blah, 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 blah. And you would just have a credit at that store and you would have to buy stuff. You wouldn't get actual cash.
Interesting.
But it was very, 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 very common. So some of the crazy things is, crimping was like, a crimp was somebody who organized press gangs and getting people on board. And they had deals with boarding masters in order to like bring people in, and they would work together. So the boarding master reached out to a crimp. He would tell his press gang. They would go grab people.
The word crimp is so funny.
All I can think of is like my hair from the late 90s, early 2000s. Just
I'm literally I'm watching somebody crimp the crust of a pizza on a boat right now. That's my headcanon.
Well, this is going to blow your mind. This was kind of an interesting fact. So some crimpers were so efficient at it, and they did such a good job at just packing people onto, like workers and sailors onto these ships, that they would clear about $9,500 a year. In modern money, that's $260,000.
Wow. Dang.
So they would, by like forcing people into slavery,
screw being a doctor,
more or less.
Right. I'm going to force you into slavery.
Yeah, as long as you don't care about other human beings.
All right, seriously.
Anyways, so then I told you about how they would pay the boarding masters. Mm-hmm. That money that they paid the boarding masters was called blood money because it had the bloods of other people's, hands and livelihoods attached to it. So that was like another term. Blood money was another term.
I was going to say, I feel like I've heard blood money used before, not in that context.
Yeah, this might be like the origination of it, and then this is taken and popularized other places.
Yeah. Interesting.
So being just such a big, New Orleans being a big port town, that was some kind of the cool facts that I had learned about it. But there was one other thing I wanted to talk about, and as I heard, and this is just what I heard down here, was that there's a bar or a place that you could go to down here, and how they would do it was you would get drunk at the bar, and when you were drunk, they would hit a button, and the floor would fall down from underneath you. So there was like trap doors all over these bars, and then they had like a jail or like a literal ramp that you'd slide into, and you would go to a bar, you'd drink, and then they would basically steal you, and you'd wake up sober on a ship, and you were part of that crew.
That sounds insane.
So it's like I heard people talking about that.
Can you imagine being a woman and your husband just not coming home that night?
He's just gone. He's not dead. He's just now he's a sailor.
Okay, well, she probably thought that he was dead.
Are you aware of any stories of someone who got like Shanghai dropped off on the other side of the world and somehow made it home?
Oh, I'm sure they're out there. While I was doing some research, I was reading one about one guy that was in London he was the one who talked about how he got kidnapped by a press gang. That was kind of the story I told earlier. But I'm sure you could find some pretty cool stories about that. There's quite a few books on it. It's a really big topic because it took place all over the world, not just in New Orleans, but super interesting, like really crazy to think about what life would have been back just 300 years ago. It was New Orleans' 300th anniversary last year. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, just absolutely crazy. I just can't imagine that, being just, you wake up one day and it's like you're going to work. You could be going to work like Chris would be like you going to work at the gas station back in the day, and somebody hijacks you on the way there and throws you on a boat, and now you're a sailor.
That would suck.
That would be the most unhappy timeline.
So yeah, I'm super excited for Kara to come down. I've been trying to plan out the weekend of fun stuff for us to do, and one of the recommendation was...
Oh, I was trying to figure out if anybody who got Shanghai'd make it back home, but...
Oh, okay.
It looks like somebody who was going to get married got Shanghai'd, like 19 days before his wedding.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, that would suck.
Yeah.
Unless he Shanghai'd himself on purpose to avoid getting married.
Jeremy's like, man,
but
that was the
plan. So I was looking at fun stuff to do down here, and I had a couple of recommendations. And one of the recommendations is like, oh, you should go on a swamp tour. So I looked up some swamp tours, and they have like hovercraft and speedboats. And then I saw this one, and I thought, oh no, there is no way I am doing that swamp tour. So one of these swamp tours, Chris or Kara,
either one of us,
kayak swamp tour.
Oh nope. Unsubscribe immediately.
No.
Wait, what?
A kayak swamp tour.
No, thank you. I'm good.
Could you imagine? It's like, there's what is it?
It's gonna have one of those signs that
snakes
says
in the water,
0
alligators.
days since last accident.
You're gonna get into one of the big croc or gator bite out of the side of it. It's like, it still basically floats.
It's fine.
Right?
Nope.
So I was like, Carol, we're gonna go gator kayaking.
Nope.
I'm just kidding.
I'm staying.
I definitely don't want to do it. But I was
down with you.
Oh my gosh.
I'm down for doing like the hovercraft tour or whatever. But I was like, I would never do the kayak swamp tour. That just sounds crazy to me. Not with snakes and gators.
Okay,
and
I don't care. Like snakes,
catfish.
yeah, whatever. Gators. I want to come back with all my limbs. Thank you. I mean, seriously.
He's got to put the Steve Irwin moves on him and be like,
you take that gator and you just.
Crikey, got a gator over here. So,
oh my lordy.
So yeah, we're gonna have a fun weekend. We'll make sure to take a lot of pictures and post a lot of pictures.
And you said there was a restaurant that's above like a gator pit, more or less.
Yeah, there's like a gator sanctuary or something, and when you eat dinner, you can look down and see the gators through the floor.
That's pretty sweet.
Or whatever. It's supposed to be pretty cool. Yeah. Lots of fun stuff, but I can't wait to take Kara down to Cafe du Monde, and that's the one with the beignets. And there's a couple places that sell beignets.
I'm so excited.
But we get to have a fresh cup of coffee, and like the chicory coffee, and all that fun stuff. Go see the French Quarter. We're gonna walk down Bourbon Street. We'll go check that out. And so, it'll be pretty fun stuff. I can't wait to get home.
We need to go to is it the French Market that's down there?
Yes, the French Market is right down in the French Quarter. It's so at the end of the French Market is Cafe du Monde, which is a cafe that's open up 24 hours a day, believe it or not. And you can get the coffee and the beignets there. And I did not go there without you. I got beignets, but I got them from somewhere else. I didn't get a Cafe du Monde beignet.
You're lucky. So. You're lucky.
You guys both need to wear berets the whole time you're in the French Quarter. It's mandatory.
Well, so obviously we've had a podcast about it. You know, I'm losing my hair. I'm going bald up top. So one of the first things I was like, oh, I don't have a hat. So there is one whole hat place, but it's all of those straw hats, but like the nice ones. They're dressier, like a jazz musician would wear or whatever.
It's a dressy straw hat, guys.
I'm not a hillbilly.
It's got Sunday a ribbon around the top of it. I mean, it's got a little feather.
Oh my goodness.
So she fancy.
I had to hold out for just a baseball cap. I had to go somewhere else.
Oh my gosh. I need to see this hat place.
Yeah, they had like this big hat store. And
I need to see this hat place.
Oh man.
So, but anyways, what I was going to say is I can't wait to come back home, though, because like right now, fall colors are at peak in Duluth, and we got some new equipment that I can't wait to shoot on.
Yeah, it's like 40 degrees.
It was 93 here today with like 90% humidity.
I'll take 40 degrees, sorry.
No, I'll take 40 as well.
It is freezing. And Jeremy doesn't want me to turn the heat on in the house yet.
It's not necessary.
I unlocked the thermostat for you. Yeah.
I wake up with icicles on my face.
That's the Minnesota experience.
I don't want the Minnesota
experience. Dulucon.
Right. We're just being authentic.
Oh.
So, and don't forget, Dulucon's coming up. Yeah. We're all going to be down there in some capacity or another.
Jeremy and
Chris,
I are
and Keith are going to have a panel.
Yeah, you guys are the hosts.
Yep.
That's right, we are.
And it's going to be a good time. So, but we're coming up to just the end of the podcast. Is there any other final notes that you guys want to hit on?
No, I think this is the best podcast we've ever done. I don't know what was different about this one than the other ones, but this one's...
Oh, I do have a little thing.
Oh, okay.
So I was watching like YouTube videos trying to figure out like things about New Orleans. And there was one girl this guy was interviewing, and she said, I swear, a girl from my church invented twerking.
Oh
so
my
twerking
gosh.
came from New Orleans. Is anybody surprised?
Yeah, no.
According to that girl, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was funny.
All right. Well, I'm so glad that everyone was able to, we were able to make this work. And I can't wait. Next week, I'll be back for the next podcast. And I can't wait to see you guys and keep working on stuff. So hope you guys have a good time up there in Duluth. And Kara, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yay!
All right. Well, okay.
And
okay. Well, I'll outro time. If you like this video, even though it's falling apart at the end here, if you like this video, go ahead and throw a thumbs up on it. It shows that you want to see more stuff like this. If you're interested in what we're doing, hit the subscribe button. It shows that you're supporting the channel and you want to come back and see what we're doing. If you really like us, ring the notification bell. You'll be notified of everything that we upload. And of course, comment below with crazy stuff you know about New Orleans or wherever you're from. We want to know. And I think that's pretty much it. So, Kara.
May the force be with you.